Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello, good morning, good afternoon. Salam. We are going to be speaking a bit about Islam. What is Islam? What is the religion about? What do you call someone who believes in the religion? And basically taking it from the beginning as if you know absolutely nothing about the religion. We have something which is called a fitrah. And a fitrah is a natural inclination towards believing in God, one God. And essentially we have this hole in us. We often try to fill that hole with lots of distractions or intoxicants, fun, whatever it may be. But there's only one thing that can fill that hole, and that is God. Our goal and our plan is to learn how do we fill that void within us with God. And we're going to do it from an Islamic perspective. Before we start, what we need to understand is that no matter how much nonsense I think I've done in my life, God is all forgiving. He is the most merciful amongst many of his characteristics and names and qualities that we know about him. And for me to even think for 1 second that I've done too much, God can't forgive me for that, it's an insult to God. God is not like me and you. The way that he forgives, I literally can't comprehend it properly, because he can change all the bad that we did in our lives to good. He can forgive you for something that you've done over and over and over and over and over, and you just need to put in that effort to ask for that forgiveness. I have a message for you. That message is simple: that there is none worthy of worship except God, and that Muhammad is the final messenger of God. I have a message for you, and that message is simple: there is none worthy of worship except God, and that God has sent messengers throughout time and scriptures. And all these messengers were Adam, Noah, Moses, Jesus, Abraham, and the final of them being Prophet Muhammad. If you believe that message, that is what makes you a Muslim. God, and the Arabic word for God is Allah. Allah guides who he wills. That may be from a friend, a neighbor, a talk you once heard, a dream, maybe you did your own research, a complete stranger online, or a friend. There's no one size fits all. But the important thing is, has the message reached you? So you know when you go to a food shop and you taste the best burger ever, nothing you've tasted before even comes close to this burger, what's the first thing you do? You tell people close to you about it, because you want them to enjoy that as well. You want them to share in how lekker that burger was. You just want them to taste it, just to taste it. Now that is what belief in Allah is like. When you receive the correct message and you have caring teachers, there's nothing better than believing in that sweetness, that taste of believing in God. In simple terms, there's nothing more lekker than Islam. And then similarly, if you saw a small baby walking towards a fire, it doesn't matter whose baby it is, doesn't matter whether you know that baby, doesn't matter how excited that baby is to walk towards the fire. What would you do if you saw the baby walking towards the fire? You would do everything in your power to try to stop that baby. And that would be whether they like it or not. So if you receive the message of Islam in its true form and you reject it, you are heading towards a punishment which you wouldn't wish upon your worst enemy, even for a split second. And that punishment is forever. So at the bare minimum, my hopes is that you lend an ear and at least consider it. So if it's not your cup of tea, then you're in the same boat as you were before, and you have nothing to lose. But if it is your cup of tea, which it should be, then my hopes is that you enjoy it, you research it, and you look further into it, because it's just going to be better for your soul. Quite simple. So let's start from the beginning together. If you believe that there's one God and that Prophet Muhammad is the final messenger of God, that is what makes you a Muslim, or what some people often say, a Muslim. Shahadah is saying that you believe that there's one God and that you follow the final messenger of God. Second one is Islam, which is the religion itself. So similar like how you get Christianity is a religion, Judaism is a religion, Islam is the religion. And a person who follows the religion of Islam is known as a Muslim. Let's pause for a second. Forget all of the things that you heard a Muslim must do or mustn't do. For example, I have a friend from campus who said, Dayan, I'll become Muslim, but I can't live off pork or alcohol or whatever the case may be. As a Muslim, our response to that would be, welcome to the religion. Those are things which shouldn't deter you from the religion. Your belief in God and that Prophet Muhammad is the final messenger of God is what makes you a Muslim. That comes first. That's your entry card into paradise. Without that, you don't qualify, to be completely honest. It's the difference between eternal punishment in a fire and paradise. So if at any time you wish to make the best decision of your life and to become Muslim, all that you have to do is believe it and say it. It can be done alone without telling anyone, in secret, or at the mosque with people, with other Muslims who will embrace you. You just need to take that step to say it. Now that we're saying that, okay, believing or being a Muslim is saying that there's none worthy of worship except God and that Prophet Muhammad is the final messenger of God. Those are two separate things. So we're going to break that down for us to understand what we are saying. The Arabic word for God is Allah. We need to define God. What are his characteristics? Is he a person? Is he everything? Is he just a higher being? What is he? So there are many attributes and names of Allah. Of these, there are 13 which are essential for us to know. These are like key, crucial ones, but these are not the only ones. And what's actually like cool about these is like you'll see that some of these intrinsically you know and believe already, and some of these you maybe just didn't think of before in the slide to think of, okay, that's actually a separate characteristic that I would need to think of or apply to believe in my God. So God exists, and Allah's existence is not similar to existing things. He exists without a manner of being. So he doesn't have a body, he doesn't have a shape, he doesn't have a color, and he exists without a place. Second one is the oneness of God. So there is no partner to Allah in his divinity. He's one, not like the number one, which can be divided into parts. He is one and one alone. He has no beginning and he is eternal. So Allah exists without a beginning, or else he would be creation if something had to bring him into existence. Allah's existence has no ending. Life. Allah is alive without a soul, body or flesh, and does not die. Knowledge. Allah has eternal and everlasting knowledge which does not change. Allah knows everything before it happens and all permutations of what could have happened. Power. So Allah has power over all things, whether all of creation worships him or none of creation worships him. That doesn't increase or decrease him in any way, shape or form. Will. Allah does whatever he wills. Nothing can prevent the will of Allah, and he does not need any assistance. Whatever Allah willed to exist must exist in the time that Allah willed for it to exist. What Allah does not will for it to exist shall not come into existence. There is nothing which can happen which is outside the will of Allah. Then independence or non-neediness of others. Allah does not need a means or a medium. Allah doesn't need food. Allah doesn't need the bathroom. Allah doesn't need something to do something else. Allah can just say be and it will come into existence. Allah does not resemble any creation. When we hear about the attributes of Allah, we think of it with complete perfection and not in a way that resembles any creation in any way, shape or form. Hearing. Allah hears all things without the need of an ear or an instrument. Allah sees everything that is seeable without the need of an eye or pupil or any kind of camera or device or even a ray of light. Speech. His speech does not have a beginning or end. He does not need letters or words or vocal cords or even language. Those are the essential ones. There are many more which hasn't been mentioned, but I just want to touch on some of those. So He is the creator of Ameen. And Ameen refers to everything except Allah, the one who created and formed all of creation. That is that He brought them from non-existence into existence. He is the sustainer of everything. He is perfect and free from all imperfections. He is closer to every existent being through His power and knowledge, and not a physical proximity. But He says that He's closer to you than your jugular vein. So bringing it all back, when we say the Shahadah, we are saying that I declare with my tongue and I believe with my heart that no one deserves to be worshipped except Allah. This is the worship that if you practice it to other than Allah, that makes you not a Muslim. So now that I believe in God, I need to know what God wants from me. What's my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing in life? That should be conveyed to us in some way, shape or form. Imagine I gave you a blank piece of paper and I said, your test starts now. I didn't tell you any questions, I didn't tell you a time limit, a topic, a rubric, you don't know how much this is out of, you know absolutely nothing about this. That would be a difficult test, to say the least. So to convey the message to us, God chose prophets and messengers throughout time to convey that message to us. With the first human being, Nabi Adam, to Noah, to Moses, to Jesus, with the final prophet and messenger being Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon all of them. Each and every one of them came with the same core message, and that was that none is worthy of worship except Allah. And what you need to do to be successful in this test of life, don't worship anything else. There is a day of judgment which you need to prepare for, and follow the prophet of your time. Some came with scriptures or new sacred laws, whereas others follow the sacred laws of the messengers who came before them. So for example, if I lived in the time of Moses, I would say that none is worthy of worship except God, and the prophet Moses is the messenger of God. I would follow the laws and the scripture during the time of Moses. And that's what makes me a Muslim. If I lived in the time of Jesus, I would say that none is worthy of worship except God, and the prophet Jesus is the messenger of God, and I would follow the laws and scriptures which was revealed to Jesus. And the final prophet and messenger who was sent to us until the end of time was Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. And no messenger or prophet will come after him, except for Jesus, who was raised to the heavens and will return during the end of time. His name is Muhammad, the son of Abdullah. He was born in Mecca in the year of the elephant. He was known as a trustworthy and an honest person. He became a prophet at the age of 40 and spread the message of Islam in Mecca for 13 years. And then he migrated to Medina for 10 years. And that's where he passed away and is buried today. From my personal experiences, love for the religion came through loving Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Is that learning about his life, his stories, his sacrifices, his love and compassion and care for those around him, and his love and compassion for me and for you, it brings a sweetness and a love to the religion that I couldn't find elsewhere. Nabi Muhammad is the prophet and messenger of our time until the end of time. So our Shahadah is that there is none worthy of worship except God, and the Prophet Muhammad is the final messenger of God. Well done on making the best decision of your life, and that's to become Muslim. Or if you are Muslim already, well done on making an active decision to learn about your religion. So I like to focus on those who are born Muslim for a second, because our parents were Muslim and our families are Muslim. There needs to come a time in our life where we think for ourselves, why am I Muslim? I need to have that reason within myself, and I believe it by myself. Because on the day of judgment, when I die, when I'm in my grave, and when I'm resurrected, I am going to be questioned alone on my religion and my belief. There comes a time when you need to know why you're Muslim, and you need to take it seriously. And a simple test for that is, if no one is looking, would I still do things which I'm supposed to do as a Muslim? So for example, I live on my own. Comes time for Salah, am I still making Salah? I'm out with my non-Muslim friends and we go to a place and we have not halal food. Am I still eating it? Do I cover my awrah? Do I still believe in Allah and Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam when no one is around? The answer may likely be yes in terms of belief, because no other religion comes close to Islam. What I have found is that the problem is, depending on who or what you've been exposed to, people can ask questions in ways where it seems like I don't know my religion, I don't know my beliefs, right? I promise you that our religion has the questions to all answers that your heart desires and that confuses your mind. You just need the proper guidance and people who can walk you through those kind of questions and the Islamic perspective on it. You just need to put in the effort to find these scholars and ask them about it and ask your questions and have the conversations, especially when you have the doubts. Don't let it just linger. So at the bare minimum, you should know why you believe in Allah and that Prophet Muhammad is the final messenger of Allah. At the end of the day, I am going to stand in front of Allah by myself. No family, no friends, no parents, no teachers, no children, no one. Just myself in front of Allah, and I'm going to be asked certain questions. Will I be able to say that I worship none except Allah, that Prophet Muhammad was the final messenger of God, the Quran was the scripture sent to me which I followed the teachings of Prophet Muhammad. The thing is, everyone's journey is different. I think the way my journey started taking the religion seriously was thinking to myself, if I was to die now, I'm screwed. It's simple. Like, I don't think I was doing enough to say that, okay, if I died now, I can say that I did what I was supposed to do, what I know I'm supposed to do. So now that I decide that I want to start learning my religion, where do I start? So first things first is that I need a community of practicing Muslims around me. This is friends, this is my circle of people who is around me. This can be family for a few reasons. In general, it's difficult to do stuff on your own. Simple fact. Having friends, having teachers, having people around me who practice the religion is vital for me to practice my religion. They would be able to keep you on track with your religion. Then I need to start gaining knowledge. Some points on gaining knowledge we learned from scholars, not just reading on our own. So our religion has a tradition of sitting at the feet of teachers who sat at the feet of their teachers, who sat at the feet of their teachers all the way, who heard it from the Prophet Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When reading on your own, there's definitely benefit, and that may have even be what brought you to the religion. But when it comes to essential knowledge of the religion, we need to learn it from someone. That alone can be daunting, because we think to ourselves, I am a grown man, I am an adult. Why do I need someone to teach me how to pray when I can just read a book? Why do I need someone to tell me how to clean myself in the bathroom, or how to shower, or how to eat? Because I'm a grown adult and I can just read that myself. I guarantee you it would be so much easier to learn it correctly from a teacher when you're doing it for the first time. It's not something to be ashamed of. No matter how old you are, and this comes to my second point, is that it doesn't matter how old you are never too late to start learning. The best of those who practice the religion of Islam were the companions of Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon you. And all of those were Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, how old was he when he learned how to use the bathroom? How old was he when he learned how to recite and memorize the Quran? That includes Surah Fatiha. How old was he when he learned the basics of the religion of Islam? He was roughly 40 years old, because Nabi Muhammad ﷺ became a prophet at the age of 40. So that means that all knowledge of Islam and how you should do things came around that age. Whether you are 40 years old or younger or older and you don't know how to recite the first chapter of the Quran, it's okay. We just need to start learning. So the main thing that I just want to say is, don't be shy to learn the basics. No matter how old you are, I love learning the basics, and I've been a Muslim for many, many years. But the basics, like the bread and butter of the religion, I need to sit in classes and learn it. Doesn't matter if it's your first time or you say things funny, it's okay. That's the entire purpose of a class. Ask questions. No matter how silly the question is, if you don't understand, ask. What you should be shy about is that if you die and you come on the day of judgment and you are in front of Allah and you say that I don't know how to recite the Fatiha properly, I don't know how to recite the first chapter of the Quran properly, I don't know how to perform Wudhu properly, ablution, I don't know how to make Salah properly, or I've been making errors my entire life because I didn't go to a class, or if on the day of Qiyamah you tell Allah that you have no clue how to clean your butt properly, that's on you. What should I start learning? You should start with the beginning or the basics. If you don't know this, don't move on to other things which are more complicated and more complex. Imagine someone goes to school, they go to grade 1. You start with advanced calculus. When you start learning about maths, you first learn about numbers. Then you learn about addition and multiplication. Then you learn about fractions, percentages, angles, and so on and so on and so on. You don't start by calculus. You start at the basics. So there are certain things which I need to know and believe, and there are certain things which I need to do. One day while sitting with Nabi Muhammad ﷺ in the masjid, a man came in and he was wearing all white, he had black hair, he had no signs of travel on him, and no one recognized him. That's strange, because when you stay in like a small city, people know each other's faces, and since he had no signs of travel on him, he wasn't someone who came from outside of the city. So he came and he sat with his knees against the knees of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And he came and he asked some questions. And he asked, what is Islam? Prophet came and he said that Islam is to say that there is one God and that Muhammad is the final messenger of God. To pray your 5 daily salahs, to give zakah, to fast during the month of Ramadan, and to go on Hajj or perform the pilgrimage if you are by the means. And the man said, that's correct. So this was strange because he asked the question and then he said that you have spoken the truth. Then the man said, tell me about Iman or faith. The Prophet said that it is to believe in Allah, angels, messengers, scriptures, the day of judgment, and that good and bad decrees all from Allah. And once again, the man said, you have spoken the truth. That is correct. Then the man said, tell me about Ihsan. And the Prophet ﷺ said that it is to worship Allah as if you see him, and if you can't, know that he sees you. Then the man said, tell me about the hour, referring to the day of judgment. And the Prophet ﷺ said that the one being asked does not know more than the one asking the question. And then the man said, tell me about its signs. The Prophet ﷺ said that the slave woman will give birth to a mistress. And the Prophet ﷺ said that you'll see barefooted, naked, destitute shepherds competing in building the tallest buildings. Then the man left and no one could find him. And the Prophet ﷺ asked, do you know who that man was who came? And he said that that was Angel Jibreel, and he came to teach you your religion. When learning about our religion, we break it down into those pillars. Firstly, what do we believe? What should we do? And then excellence in our religion itself. And that has to do with like purification of the heart. So far, we spoke about what we need to believe in. We spoke about Hadith Jibreel. We now know that there's some things that we need to believe in and there's some things that we need to do. So just recapping those things that we need to believe in. 6 things. Quite simple. So 1, believe in Allah. And that is associating no partners with Allah in His divinity. We only worship one God. There's no multiple gods. One God, Allah. Then 2, believing in angels. There are thousands and thousands and millions of angels who obey Allah perfectly. They are made of light. They cannot disobey Allah in any way, shape or form. And they are super cool. Sometimes they can take the shape of humans or males, but without having the private parts of males. And the way that Allah chose to send the message was from Allah to the angels, to the prophets. Prophets and messengers convey the message to us. Then they came with books and scriptures throughout time. And those include the Torah, the Injil, and finally the Quran, which was revealed to Nabi Muhammad. Peace and blessings be upon them all. Then we believe in prophets and messengers. So part of our belief is we believe in each and every prophet and messenger sent by Allah. They were perfect human beings in the sense that they can't commit sins. They were an example for us, and when we want to learn about the best way that we should be living our lives, we look towards these prophets and messengers and what Allah speaks about them in the Quran, and we take stories and lessons from them. They came with miracles to prove their prophethood, and basically they were like the best of humans. You can't reach the level of prophethood like they are the best of people, but that is who Allah chooses to be a prophet. And there were thousands of them as well, with the final one being Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there will be no prophets or messengers after him. Some of the characteristics of prophets: they were truthful, they were honest, they had perfect conveyance of the message itself. They came with miracles to prove their prophethood. So for example, Nabi Musa split the ocean. Nabi Isa, or Jesus, spoke in the cradle. They were intelligent, they were smart people. And of the miracles of Nabi Muhammad ﷺ is the Quran itself. Then we believe in the day of judgment, the day of Qiyamah, is that it is a day which is 50,000 years long, a day of horror, to be completely honest, a day that everyone is scared, a day that Allah is angry. Included in our belief is that we lived in this world and then we are going to die. When we are buried, we are going to be questioned in the grave, and we are going to be questioned in the grave, and the grave is going to be a form of paradise for us or a form of punishment for us until the day of Qiyamah, or the day of judgment. The day of judgment, we will be resurrected and we will be questioned about each and everything that we've done in our lives. And after being questioned, we will go to paradise or we will go to the hellfire. And finally, we believe in the decree of Allah, and that's that all good and all bad comes from Allah. Nothing can happen outside the will of Allah. So, for example, we can't say that Allah wants something to happen and someone else wants something else to happen. What the other person or being wants happens, and it's not that Allah wanted that to happen. So what's cool is that we look at each one of these things individually, but they also just strengthen our belief and our faith in Allah. So how did we come about that? The first pillar is that you believe in Allah. Allah sent angels. Angels who came with scriptures. The scriptures were revealed to prophets. They all warned us about the day of Qiyamah, and good and bad decree comes from Allah. Everything happens through the will of Allah. We also need to be careful with what we say when it comes to our belief, because there are some things that we can say or do which can take us out of the fold of Islam. These are things which we refer to as kufr or kafir. It can make you a kafir, it can make you a non-Muslim, simply because you said or you did something. Even if you didn't know that it's something that can take you out of the fold of Islam. And this is something that we need to watch out for, especially when it comes to jokes, because we have a culture of memes, making jokes about anything and everything. The thing about that is you need to be careful about what you make jokes about, because we don't want to be of the people that fall into the category of we said something just as a joke and that took us out of the fold of Islam. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that a person says something which he believes to be harmless and it would cause him to fall into the depths of Jahannam for 70 years. So these are things like belittling Allah or Islamic laws. And it doesn't matter if you know the judgment itself. It's the fact that you said it or you did the thing itself. So some of these are belittling Allah or the messengers. There's no such thing as just talking or just joking when it comes to making fun of Allah or belittling Allah. Then we need to believe in every single ayah in the Quran. So sometimes we might come across something which we might not agree with personally because we don't understand it at the moment. So when it comes to halal, haram, or it comes to Quran and things which, because I lack the knowledge to understand it properly, don't say something like, I don't believe in that ayah, or I don't think that is halal, or I don't think that is haram. Because if you come across something which is halal and very clearly halal and you say it is haram, or you come across something which is haram and you say that it is halal, that is something which can take you out of the fold of Islam. So when it comes to disagreement with things, and it's because we don't understand it ourselves, we need to find out about it. So don't say something like, I don't think that that is correct, or I don't agree with the Quran. Because if you say that you don't agree with the word of Allah, that's something that can take you out of the fold of Islam. So be careful of how you word things. Rather phrase it in a way where you're saying, I don't understand this. It might sound strange to me, but I don't reject it. I just need to understand it better. Then some things which is a bit more clear to us is that we don't put our head on the floor or prostrate to anyone aside from Allah. We don't put our head on the floor for people. We don't put it on for any form of creation except for worshipping Allah. Then don't belittle the religion or paradise or Jahannam. Those are serious things. Okay, cool. So now I know what to believe. Now I need to know what do I need to do. As a Muslim, what did I sign up for? What do I need to do on a daily basis, a monthly basis, whatever the case may be? So first things first is 5 pillars of Islam. Is that 1, I need to say my Shahadah at least once in my life. I say that there's none worthy of worship except God and that Muhammad is the final messenger of God. Then I need to make Salah, give Zakah, fast in the month of Ramadan, and go on Hajj once in my lifetime if I am by the means. Each and every one of these goes into a lot of depth. We're just going to touch on it briefly because you need to go to classes. This is not a class for you where you're just learning everything about it. Some advice from our teachers on how we go about learning about a certain topic is that you start with a small book, then you go to a bigger book on the same topic, then a bigger book on the same topic, then a bigger book of the same topic. So if I was to explain that in simple terms, when you start school and you are doing mathematics, you don't start with calculus, you don't start with angles, fractions, you don't start with these hectic looking things. So for example, if I went to a kid in primary school and I told him, here's some funny equations where you need to solve for x, and this child is in grade 1 and they just started learning maths for the first time ever, that would be very confusing for them. So what you would do is you would first learn about, you get Salah, you will learn about the compulsory things, then you would get to a bigger book on Salah, and in that additional book of Salah to tell you, okay, how do you join a Salah? So I came late for Salah, how do I start? Or I made a mistake in my Salah, or the different types of Salahs. You learn more as you go along. You don't just start in the deep end, you start at the beginning. So with that being said is that don't jump to the deep stuff on the complicated things until you know the basics. So we're going to start with what is compulsory for you to know, the very, very important things that you have to know. Islamically, what's considered good or bad is determined by Allah. It's not determined by society because that changes from one generation to the next. Whereas Islam, what is considered good or bad, is determined by Allah. That's our yardstick. So for example, if Allah says something is permissible or something is impermissible, whether society initially thinks that it is okay and then it becomes not okay 100 or 1,000 years later, Islamically, we don't care. What Islam says is permissible is permissible. What Islam says is impermissible, whether everyone agrees with us or everyone disagrees with us. Islam works with good deeds and bad deeds. Good deeds, or you could say rewards, and bad deeds, you could say sins. Same. So it's almost like the concept of a point system. So each and everything that you've done in your life is recorded by angels sitting on your shoulders. The one on the right records all the good, and the one on the left records all of the bad that you do. This is commonly referred to as your book of deeds. They start writing when you become legally accountable and you are pubescent. So when is that? So for a male, that's when you reach the age of puberty, you are sane, you receive the message of Islam, and when you release sperm for the first time. Or about 15 years old. Whether the West considers you an adult or not doesn't matter. That's 16 years old, 18 years old, 21 years old, doesn't matter. What we look at is Islamically, are you Mukallaf, which is the word. So according to Allah, we are held accountable from that point. So the scary thing about that is usually for a boy, that's maybe like when you are somewhere between the grades of like grade 6 to maybe grade 9 for the latest. So within that time period, you're still a small child in our community. So whether you make Salah or not, people still look at you as like this little boy that like whether you just play games all the time. You don't actually take things seriously. But Islamically, you are accountable. As a little boy, whether you are grade 8, you are grade 9, grade 7, if you are Mukallaf, we need to start being aware of these things, because from that point onwards, I am accountable. I have certain obligations to Allah that I need to take seriously. And if I don't do them, I need to make up for them. Then other things which I need to understand is that there's certain things which I need to do. So there are some things which are compulsory or fard. These are things which we must do. We are rewarded for doing it, and it's a sin if we don't do it. Something like my 5 daily salahs, and we'll touch on that soon, and covering up certain parts of my body. So for male, quite simple, between my navel to my knees. But importantly, it's not just the front part of navel to knees, it's the back as well. So when I bend, my lower back specifically needs to not show, because that's my aura. So I need to cover it. Especially with the shorts needs to go until at least my knees and touch my knees at the bare minimum. That's things which are compulsory or fard. And the beautiful thing about things which are fard or compulsory is that, so when it comes to something like Salah, there's two entities in this equation. There's me who is worshipping Allah, and there's Allah who is being worshipped. What we understand and know about Allah from His attributes is that Allah isn't going to get any weaker or any stronger whether everyone or no one worships Allah. So that means that who benefits from Salah? Does Allah benefit from Salah? Does Allah become better or worse off? No. So that means that the only other one who can actually benefit from my Salah is me. I get rewards for something that I must do. It's something that Allah loves so much that He wants us to do it. Cool, so that's fard. Then we have sunnah. These are things which are recommended to do. We get rewards for doing it, and no sin if we don't do it. So these are usually things which Nabi Muhammad SAW told us to do or recommended for us to do, or things which we used to say or recite. Then we have things that are just permissible. So for example, whether I chose to wear this t-shirt or another color t-shirt, that doesn't affect my scale of good deeds or bad deeds whatsoever. Then I have impermissible or haraam. These are things which Allah has forbid us to do. We have a sin if we do it, and we have rewards if we stay away from it. Then we get things which are disliked or makroo. So now to touch on some things which is compulsory for us. Make sure you get it right. Memorize it, know it within your heart and within your mind that you know things which are compulsory and things which are sunnah. I was surprised when I came to learn some things were compulsory and some things were sunnah, even when it comes to Salah. And I think Salah is the most important one. And one of our teachers who always guides us and reminds us about Salah is Sheikh Ebrahim Gabriels. Beautiful, beautiful scholar, that no matter what the occasion, you can be at the wedding, at the janazah, at the graduation, just in the masjid, whatever the occasion is, Sheikh Ibrahim Gabriels will remind you about Salah, because he knows that it's something that we struggle with. What we want to do is we want to perfect the basics, and then also we want to add on the sunnah things. I'm going to just give a reminder of what the compulsory things are in Salah, because that's the most important things. If you get any of that wrong, your Salah is invalid. It's wrong. If you miss out something which is sunnah, or you leave out something that is sunnah, your Salah is still accepted. You might still need to correct it in certain circumstances. But if you leave out something which is compulsory, obligatory upon you, upon me, that we have to do, then hatis tamatis. So firstly, how often should we be making Salah? How often should I pray to Allah? Allah has made 5 daily prayers compulsory for us. These are referred to as Salah, and it is an obligation for us. Salahs are split throughout our day, and each one takes about 10 to 15 minutes to perform. So within a day of 24 hours, our Salahs maybe takes about 1 hour. And to be honest, that's not much. Salah is a conversation between me and Allah. There are 5 with specified time periods. Usually what you can do is you can go on Google and you can search Salah times and insert your city's name. So for example, Salah times Cape Town, Salah times Johannesburg, Salah time whatever the city is that you are living in. And you'll find the different Salah times. There are usually applications that you can download that will give you Salah times, even help you find the Qiblah, and even just calendars which are made by many different organizations telling us what times the prayers are for an entire month. The names of the different Salahs are Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha. So imagine you have a job interview. How would you prepare for it? So number one, we would want to be clean for it. Number two, you want to wear clothes which are presentable. Number three, you want to put your phone on silent. You want to be focused. So similarly, when we present ourselves to Allah on a daily basis, I need to be Islamically clean. I need to be dressed appropriately, and I need to clear all distractions and pay attention. So before I start praying, I need to be clear of major and minor impurities. Major impurities is something which requires me to shower or ghusl. This is something like sexual intercourse or semen being released, and something specific to females when you have menstruation and birth related things. So the obligations of wudu are 6. So when I perform wudu, there are 6 things which are compulsory for me to know. And these are quite simple. One is having your intention when you are washing your face that I am going to perform wudu. Then I am washing my face, and that is my entire face, and the outlines of your face is from your hairline where it usually is till your chin and ear to ear. So that is my face. Washing both hands until your elbows. So not just your forearm, hands until elbows. Wiping part of the forehead where your hairline would begin to grow at least. Washing the feet up to and including the ankles, and performing all of these actions in order. Some common mistakes when making wudu. When you start off by making wudu and you do your hands, your mouth, your nose, those are sunnah. So my intention at the beginning at that point was a sunnah intention. When I get to my face and I wash my face, I need to make the intention at that point of washing my face to perform a fard wudu or compulsory wudu. It must be when I'm doing my face. Because when I at the beginning say I intend to perform a compulsory wudu and I start doing sunnah things, that is not compulsory things. So when I get to my face, I need to make the intention to perform compulsory wudu or fard wudu. Then the face itself can be tricky. If I just put water in my hands and I do this, I might think that, okay, yes, I got everywhere on my face, but it's very easy to miss things. So for example, watch this. If I do this and I go here, you can see I'm missing portions of my temples over here. So this is one spot. If I just splash the water, I can easily miss my eyelids as well as just beneath the nose over here. Then when it comes to the beard itself, there's some rulings depending on the thickness of your beard. So go ask a scholar about that. Depending on whether you can see through the beard or not, you either need to go until your face or you can just go over your beard. Then when it comes to arms, so one thing that my friends used to tell me was the compulsory things is just everything that begins with a F. So face, forearms, forehead, feet. But the part about forearms over there isn't fully correct. When I get to the arms is from the fingertips up until and including the elbow, all the way around over here. So what that means is in the beginning when I washed my hands, I started my wudu and I washed my hands, that was sunnah, that wasn't compulsory. So the compulsory part of my hands I'm only doing when I'm washing my arms. So when I do hands, mouth, nose, face, arms, I need to go from my elbow all the way until my hand, and that's when I did the compulsory part of my hands. So all the way. So there's 2 times I'm washing it. Hands, mouth, nose, that was sunnah. When I get to my arms, that's the compulsory part. Washing the forehead, fairly simple. Washing the feet up to and including the ankles, fairly simple as well. I have wudu. I am spiritually clean. Now I need to perform a prayer. So there's some things before the prayer that need to be in place. So one, I need to have certainty of the time. I need to know that it is dhuhr time now. I can't guess. And if I have doubt, the Salah is not accepted. I need certainty that I'm making dhuhr in dhuhr time, asr in asr time, maghrib in maghrib time. If there's 1 or 2 minutes and the waqt is going to go from like a maghrib to isha, for example, I need to have certainty of what time I am in and which waqt I am in. Number 1, awareness of the time. Then I need to have awareness of the Qiblah. I need to know what way I'm facing for Qiblah. If I'm in South Africa, I know that Saudi Arabia, Makkah, the Kaaba is roughly northeast from where I am. So, how do I find Qiblah without a compass, without an app? Is that I use what Allah has given us, which is the sun. So the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. East, west. So if I see that the sun is setting on this side of me, what I would do is I would put that on my left side. That makes it west. By default, that makes the right side east. Then that makes in front of me north, and a little bit to the right makes that northeast-ish. So if I'm going to find my Qiblah, it would be that direction. Then the area that I'm praying my Salah in needs to be clean. So the easiest thing is get you a nice, comfy, soft musalla or musla. And if you don't have one, the general rule is that an area is clean unless you saw some form of najis or filth go on it. So what we mean by that is that if I come and I find a little corner, technically speaking, I have no clue if a dog peed there or not. Same thing with a field. So there could be urine or there couldn't be urine. So the general rule is that that place is clean unless I saw or I can smell that it's not clean. So when it comes to a field is clean unless I saw a dog pee over there or I saw some popo over there. Then I know not clean. But general rule is clean until proven dirty. Some tips when it comes to wudu is, one thing that you want to be your friend is this guy over here. This helps with so many things, from istinja, or cleaning yourself in the bathroom, as well as wudu in public places. One of the most useful tips I've been taught in my entire life was how to perform wudu with a bottle of water. Keep one of these in your bag when you're at work. So, number 1, it helps with going to the bathroom. One thing that should be a concern for us is that if I'm going to the bathroom and I'm wetting a piece of toilet paper, that's probably a sign that I'm not cleaning myself correctly. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Dayan, I must have heard you incorrectly. No. Things which we need to learn about is purity in our religion. Some general hygiene related things is that a Muslim is someone who is a clean person. I want to shower, keep myself clean. When it comes to shaving in certain areas, so for example under my armpits and in my pubic areas, I want to make sure that my hairs aren't longer than a grain of rice, or else I need to shave. When it comes to the chapter of purity and cleaning, we learn about water, which is a little, and water, which is a lot. And I'm just going to leave it at that for now. If we have a small amount of water and it touches something which is najis or dirty, then the small amount of water becomes dirty when it comes into contact with that thing. If you went to the bathroom and you did a number 1 or you did a number 2, and I took toilet paper and I wet it, and then I wipe on a dirty spot, so for example I wipe at the back, because it's a little water and it touched najis, it means that that little water became dirty. So even though I cleaned myself, and you should be cleaning yourselves regardless of whether it means that you are Islamically clean or not, I need to get rid of that. One thing that I like about the religion of Islam is that it teaches us the basics. So one of those is how to clean ourselves when we go to the bathroom. So what is your friend when you go to the bathroom is one of these guys and some toilet paper. Okay, so very practical. If I was to go to the bathroom and I did a number 2, or let's just say number 2 somehow got in my hand, how would I go about cleaning this? What seems to be the norm that everyone does is when they go to the bathroom, they do a number 2, they just take toilet paper and they wipe it. Okay, so let's think about that for a second. If you got some poop on your hand, like we got over here, would you just wipe it away? Smells still there. Smells like peanut butter. No, you would not. We would go to the bathroom, we would use water, we'd use soap, use everything in our power to get rid of the smell, get rid of anything that reminds me of that, I get rid of it. So similarly, when it comes to our butt, we do the same thing, is that we don't just wipe, we use water, because that is the easiest way to get any form of dirt, all evidence of it, gone. Completely gone. So the game changer which you need to have on you when you are going out and you know that you aren't home or somewhere where there's a Muslim around is, I need a bottle. Simple 500 ml empty bottle that I can use to fill with water. This helps with two things. One, for stingering, which is basically cleaning yourself after you go to the bathroom. Whether it's a number 1 or number 2, I need to use water. I use toilet paper and I use water. Simply just cleans everything the best. This is not for drinking purposes. If you see a bottle or a jug or something in the bathroom, don't use it to drink. Just not going to be the greatest experience for you. Even though there's technically no problem because it doesn't touch anything, but it's just using it for cleaning. So, bottle of water. Number 1 for when I go to the bathroom. So when I do a number 1, pouring, wiping. Number 2, exactly the same thing, pouring, wiping. And importantly, sitting, like especially for males, sitting and peeing, sitting and going to the bathroom for no matter what reason. If you're going to the toilet pot or if you need to release anything, you go to the bathroom and we sit. We don't stand, because when you stand, it can sprinkle everywhere, make things dirty, the seat included, the worst thing. Yeah, just sit. I don't think that needs any explanation, to be completely honest. Then, second handy tool for a bottle is Wudhu. One thing that you know from being in university or being in a corporate space is that it can be challenging to perform Wudhu if you don't have facilities or a Salaah room that caters for it. So what I mean by that is, part of the Wudhu is you need to wash your feet. To be completely honest, in the entire wudu, that's the one that's a bit more difficult to do in public, whereas all the others are fairly easy. Like if you're washing your hands, your mouth, your nose, your face, even your arms, you can just say like you're just cooling off. Stressful day. Whew. When it comes to feet, that's where it can get a bit awkward. So what we want to do is, if you are brave, go for it. Lift your foot up in the sink. Clean your foot, have some paper towels ready for you to dry yourself so you don't make a mess of everywhere around you. But the feet itself can be quite embarrassing, to be completely honest, depending on just how you're feeling. So what this guy helps with is that you fill it with water and you go into a stall, one of the bathroom stalls, and you did your hands, your mouth, your nose, your face, your arms, your forehead, and just when it comes to your feet, just do that in the stall. Everything else you did already at the tap. So what you can do is just put your foot over the toilet pot itself, pour some water over your foot and wipe it. Make sure you have some paper towel with you, dry it, and then other foot as well, and sorted. No one had to see your toes. So having wudu, that's one. So that's one useful thing for it. The other one is that if I fill it with water, I can actually just go outside in a place where no one can see me and I can use it to perform wudu there. So one of the most useful tips that I found was how to perform wudu using a cup or bottle. To be honest, you don't even need 500 ml of water when you perform wudu. You could do with a lot less. So what you want to do is learn how to perform wudu using a bottle. So pouring some water in, doing your hands. Pouring some water in your hands, doing your face. Pouring some water into your hand, doing your arm. So you let the water run down and you do your arm. Pour some water into your hand, let it run down your other arm. Some water into your hand, forehead and some water. You can actually end up pouring over your foot or just putting on your hand and wiping over your foot until your ankles. Inshallah, in the future I have a video on how to do that. So those are some tips for wudu and for going to the bathroom, especially like when you are in a place with not as many Muslims, so people might not understand and you might feel a bit shy. Sometimes we might think to ourselves, okay, I'm just too busy, so maybe I have a job where I don't have a break and I'm gonna work through an entire waqt. Or I'm a student, I'm writing a test or an exam, I don't have time to pause to make salah. Or I am traveling, or I'm working, or whatever the case may be. It's very easy to make an excuse to say, I am not able to, or I won't be able to make salah. But to be honest, the general rule of thumb that I use is that if there's enough time for me to take a bathroom break, that means that there's enough time for me to make salah. And so it might just come to prep. So what do I mean by that? I'm going to use a test as an example. So let's just say I am writing a test from 6 till 8 o'clock, for example. And within that time, Maghrib is going to start at 6 o'clock. And by the time my test is finished, it's going to be Isha already. So I might say that, okay, Diane, I'm just going to perform my salah after my test and I'm just going to miss the salah. Personally, I don't think that's okay. So what I mean by that is that if I had a pee and I was busy writing this test and I really need to go to the bathroom, what would I do? I would pause, I'd run to the bathroom, use the bathroom, come back. That would take at least 5 to 10 minutes. So what that means is that by default, there is at least a 10-minute gap that I'm okay with taking during this test and something that I'm allowed to do during this test that I can actually make salah. So some different scenarios over here. One is a part that can take long when it comes to salah is the wudu itself. So if I have wudu before the time and I just need to make salah, I can honestly be done with my salah in 2 minutes. Just do compulsory things even. Number 2 is have khufs. Khufs is certain socks that you have wudu and then you put the socks on. Then if you don't have wudu, because you're someone who usually breaks your wudu, it's very easy for you. What you do is when you go take your wudu, you do your hands, mouth, nose, face, arms, forehead, ears and feet. You just wipe on top. So you don't have to take your socks off. You can just wipe on your khufs. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Third one is just use the 10-15 minutes to take wudu and make salah. Just be super fast and do the compulsory things so that you know that when it comes time for doing the compulsory things, you're still doing it in the times when you're supposed to be doing them. Now what we are going to do is we are going to learn about the compulsory things during salah. So when it comes to salah, we need to know that certain things are compulsory and certain things are sunnah. Those are different categories and I need to know that compulsory things are compulsory and that sunnah things are sunnah. So we are going to touch on the compulsory things, and if it is not one of those things, then it is something which is sunnah. So first things first is that if I am able to, I must stand and make a compulsory prayer. So for a fard salah, I must stand if I am able to. So what does if I am able to? What does that even mean? So for example, I went on a hike and I played soccer and now I'm tired and I just want to sit. Probably not a good enough reason. Or if I walked all the way to the masjid and then I sat on the chair, I probably can stand when it's time for standing. So what I need to do is that each position I need to do as if I am okay until the point of a position where I can't do it okay. So what do I mean by that? If I can stand, I must stand. If I struggle to bow, then I can have an exception in the bowing position. But then when it comes to standing once again, I need to stand. If I can go into sujood, but I can't stand, I would sit for the standing part. And when it's time for sujood, I would go into sujood. If I can stand, but I can't go into sujood, I would stand for the standing parts. And when it comes time for sujood, I would sit. So the general rule is that I need to do all the positions that I can do. So the first part which I need to do is I need to make my intention. So at the bare minimum, I intend to perform the fard salah of dhuhr, 4 rak'ahs, for the sake of Allah. Within the niyyah itself, there are some sunnah things. So for example, I intend to perform the fard salah of dhuhr, 4 rak'ahs, facing Qiblah, for the sake of Allah, in congregation. So I need to have my intention. Then the first Allahu Akbar I need to say. That is Takbiratul Ihram. So the first one where I say Allahu Akbar, I don't technically have to raise my hands. As long as I say Allahu Akbar and I can hear myself, then I met that criteria. Then I need to have my intention when saying that Allahu Akbar. Intention, saying Allahu Akbar to enter my Salah. Then Surah Fatiha. So there's many things when it comes to Surah Fatiha, is that number one, I need to hear myself throughout the entire Surah Fatiha. I need to hear myself. It's not reciting or saying it in my mind. I am physically saying it with my lips, my tongue, my vocal cords, that I at least need to hear myself. So for example, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, Ihdinas siratal mustaqim, siratal ladzina an'amta 'alayhim ghayril maghdubi 'alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. So, funny story is that in Tarim, I used to think that the angels are saying Ameen in Salah. When you are there and you're performing a fard Salah which is recited loudly, so for example, Maghrib, after the Jama'ah, so for example, you'll hear غَيْرِ مَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ Ameen. And then after that Ameen, you just hear and I used to think angels, like it can only be angels, like it sounds like thousands of angels just saying Ameen as well afterwards. And then what I realized is everyone's just doing the compulsory things in Salah that they're supposed to do. So I need to recite Surah Fatiha for myself in my Salah even when I'm following a congregation. So what that means is, number one, it has to be after the Imam recites it. So not reciting Surah Fatiha with the Imam. So once the Imam completes Surah Fatiha, I need to recite Surah Fatiha for myself. And I need to at least hear myself. So what that means is that I would hear Waladdallin, Ameen, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. I need to hear myself. There mustn't be silence. So I wouldn't recite like this. No, I need to say it with my mouth. So that's number one. I need to hear myself reciting. This applies to Sunnah Salahs and Fard Salahs. I need to hear myself reciting physically with my lips, with my tongue. Then Surah Fatiha itself. Best tip, go to a teacher and learn it. Especially if you learn Surah Fatiha when you were small, because there's so many little differences. So you get pronunciation and you get tajweed. One is how you say the letter itself, and then tajweed is, do I pull long over here? How do I join certain things? That's where tajweed comes in. So specifically for Surah Fatiha, make sure that as an adult, as someone who is Mukallaf, whether you are 13, whether you are 30, whether you are 60, that I go to someone who teaches me how to pronounce each and every letter correctly. So things which I found quite tricky. For example, there are certain letters in the Arabic language which aren't there in the English language. So for example, a ha versus a ha. Alif versus an ain. It's a difference between a and a. Sometimes they can sound similar. Or a ha versus a ha. Those are important things. Or a dal versus a dad. Those are important things which I need to know the difference. So for example, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. It's an ain, not an alif. So comes from over here. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. There's a shadda, something which you put emphasis on. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Middin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. nasta'in. So a ta and a ta. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim. Ghayri al-maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. So there's so many different things within Surah Fatiha that sometimes you just need some fine-tuning. I even still need some fine-tuning. So for example, Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. It's not Ihdina as-sirat or Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. It's like in English we just don't have that letter. So make sure you go to a teacher, make sure you go to someone who can teach you these things, because truth of the matter is that if I don't know how to recite Surah Fatiha correctly, my Salah can be invalid. And on the day of Qiyamah, I need to tell Allah that, Allah, I lived for 50 years, I lived for 60 years, and there were classes available for me that I could have gone to, but I was too shy to learn it. It's not something that you should feel shy to learn, because it's your religion, it's the basics. Generally, as we get older, we're more shy to learn the basics, especially when it comes to reverts, when it comes to people who are a bit older within the community. You feel that if I go to a class where they're teaching the basics, it's one, I might feel bad about myself because I'm being taught things which a child is being taught. And number two, it's something which I'm supposed to know, or everyone thinks I know, but I don't actually know. You need to take that out of your head, throw it in the bin, because that comes from shaitan. We don't have shame in learning about the basics. So if we were to think of someone like the companions of the Prophet Nabi Muhammad SAW, at the age of like 40, they were taught how to istinja. So that's when they taught you about how to istinja, how to wipe your butt, how to wipe your front. So learning something at a late stage, or just because you're old, isn't something you should be shy of. And make sure that you learn it from a teacher, because when you learn from just reading out of your own, it's very easy to learn the incorrect thing. So, recap of where we are, we need to say our intention. Then we enter the prayer by saying Allahu Akbar with our intention at the same time. I recite Surah Fatiha. Then I need to bow or go into the ruku position. I technically don't need to say Allahu Akbar to bow and go into the ruku position. So that's leaning forward so that my hands can rest on my knees. Then making the necessary pause. General rule of thumb is in Salah, between each position, you need to pause. It's a requirement of the Salah. So when you're going from standing up to ruku, you don't just move. You need to move and pause. You come up and pause. That's a requirement as part of the Salah. Two ways that you can realize you're in the position for long enough is, one, you're in the position for long enough to say Subhanallah. The second one is people can differentiate between your two positions. So if I was to stand, first go down and then come back up. It's not just one motion that they're seeing. It's they saw me, I paused, I came back. Then you return to the upright position, then you prostrate twice and you sit in between the two prostrations. That is compulsory for each and every raka'ah, so each and every unit within my prayer. Things which are compulsory in Salah. Intention. Entering the prayer by saying Allahu Akbar with my intention. Reading Surah Fatiha. Bowing. Returning to the upright position. Performing two prostrations. Sitting between the prostration and pausing between each position so that my limbs come to rest. Those are compulsory for each and every raka'ah which I perform. Then I have what is called the tashahud or the tahiyyat. In the tashahud, the second one is compulsory in your salah. So the first one is sunnah, but if I leave it out, I still need to do a sajda. Topic for another time. For now, what we focus on is the second tashahud is compulsory. What that means is that when I'm ending my salah, when I finish my second sujood, I come up, I need to recite certain things. So what I need to do is I need to say the tashahud and I need to send prayer upon Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. An example of that is التحيات لله السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. That is compulsory. Then ending of my salah, I need to greet and I say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah to the people on my right side. Going over what is compulsory. 1. Intention. 2. Entering the prayer by saying Allahu Akbar accompanied by the intention. I need to stand if I am able to stand. Reading Surah Fatiha. Bowing in the position of ruku. Pausing in between each position so that the limbs come to a rest. Returning to the upright position. Prostrating twice. Sitting between the two prostrations. Performing the tashahud. And sending salawat upon Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So for example, Allahu Akbar. And in your mind you're saying Nawaitu fardun salatil maghrib 3 rakat. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. ركوع. Come up from ركوع. Sujood. Come up from sujood. Sujood again. Come up from sujood. That would be 1. Everything in between is sunnah, and it's things which are there to help us perfect our salah. So in the case that we even forgot something which is fard, inshallah on the day of Qiyamah, Allah will be able to fill the things which we missed, which are compulsory, with sunnah things which we performed. Salah itself is a journey for many of us. What we mean by that is that ideally what I want to get to is the point where I'm making salah whether I am alone, there's no one around me, there's no parents telling me what to do, there's no one watching me. Come what may, is that when it is salah time, it's not negotiable. I am going to make salah. I have that within myself, that drive that I'm going to make salah when the time for salah is there. What that means is that I know when my different salahs are. Eggs is generally something people have as breakfast or on a lekker Gatsby. If someone was to give me an omelette for breakfast and it's in the morning at 8 a.m. and I eat it, it's breakfast. But if someone was to give me an omelette at 6 p.m. at night, is that still breakfast? No. Still an egg, but it's not the same. So, similarly, like when it comes time for salah, salahs have prescribed times. So, Fajr is during a certain time, Dhuhr is during a certain time, Asr, Maghrib and Isha during certain times. So, what that means is that I need to make each one of those salahs during its prescribed time. If I do miss a salah by accident, I can just make up for that salah, but I don't get the same reward as if I did it during its time. I need to be okay with it comes time for salah, I am going to make salah whether someone reminds me or not. I am going to do it. I don't need anyone else, because that's between me and Allah. And the thing is that different people are at different stages when it comes to salah. Some people might be doing all 5 when they get home at the end of the day. Some people might be making some people might be missing Fajr, for example, because it's quite early in the morning. Some people might be doing it, but when they do it, they don't do it properly. Maybe you're not doing it with Wudhu. Or I make salah, but when I'm at work or I'm out, I don't make salah. I do that when I come home later in the day. What I need to understand is that that's not okay. I need to understand what the ideal is, and I need to work towards getting there. And it's very possible. Like, I've seen people in all different types of scenarios, and they still are making the salahs. Whether it's in a corner or a closet, or maybe you even only have like a 30-minute lunch break. In that time, I know I need to eat, I need to make salah, I need to go to the bathroom. How must I do all of that within 30 minutes? planning is honestly all that it takes. So no matter where I am with my Salah at the moment, what I want to do is I want to get to a space where when it comes time for Salah, I am going to make it during that time, no matter what, no matter who's there, who's watching me or who is not watching me. I know that I need to make my Salah. One of the cool things about Salah is there's always ways to improve. So one is I need to be making all 5 of my Salahs every day. That's ideal. Then I need to be making all 5 of my Salahs during their prescribed times every single day. Once I get that right, I want to start making my Salah at the beginning of the waqt. So what I mean by that is when Dhuhr comes in, I make it at the beginning of the Dhuhr, not at the end of the Dhuhr, just before Asr. So then once I get that right, so I'm making my Salahs, I'm making it in the time of Salahs, then I want to start doing it in congregation. Once I get that right, I want to make sure that I'm doing it in the masjid whenever I can, or as often as I can, at least once a day. Then I want to make sure that I'm using a miswak. That can even be part of step 1. Then of the most important things is I want to start working on concentration during Salah. So when I'm making Salah, I found a way to focus on Allah and think about Allah during my Salah. I'm not doing it to show off for people. I'm not rushing. I'm doing it because this is my 5 minutes, my 10 minutes that I'm spending with Allah to worship Him. So yeah, be lekker. Islam is honestly not that difficult in terms of like what it does for your day. You remembering Allah like within your day, which is just super cool on a daily basis. A tricky thing in the Muslim community is that when you start doing things which you are supposed to be doing, so each and every Muslim is supposed to be doing certain things. When you suddenly start to do it yourself and you're deciding for yourself, an active decision that I am going to start taking my religion more seriously. I want to make all of my Salahs. I don't want to do haraam. So let's just say if I have a girlfriend or boyfriend, I don't want to have one anymore. I know that, okay, I should get married. Or it comes time for I need to dress appropriately. I need to start covering my aura, or I need to wear a hijab for female, whatever the case may be. Or an important one is like I don't want to touch someone who's not a mahram. When it comes to a mahram, there's always one that kind of like confused me, because as Muslims, we're on the same team. So if Allah says don't drink and I drink, you should shout at me and you should correct me. Similarly, if you are someone which I can marry, then if I touch you, both me and you should be like not okay with that. But what we often find, especially when it comes to like aunties and uncles, is that if someone is not a mahram, so let's just say I'm a guy and I have an auntie who was married into the family, or I have a cousin who is a female, those are not people who are my mahrams, which means that when I touch them, it is haram, it's a sin. That's something that for some reason our community just struggles with. So you find ways around it in the sense of a polite way to not touch them. So way from a distance, hold something in your hand when it comes time for greeting. The thing that people need to understand is it's not that I don't like you, it's that Allah said we should not be touching. That's the only reason why we're not hugging, why we're not touching, why we're not kissing, because Allah said don't do it. I think what the aunties just need to understand is, auntie, I still love you, no less whatsoever. We just can't touch. So who can I touch? Who can I hug? Who can I give a kiss on the cheek without worrying about? Allah says that a man is prohibited from marrying his mother, grandmother, daughters, sisters, nieces, paternal and maternal aunts, great aunts, his wife's mother, his wife's grandmother, the wives of his father or grandfather, the wives of his children and grandchildren. And then a woman is prohibited from marrying her father, grandfather, basically the male version of the things you said for females. What we saw from that is that there's certain ones which were not mentioned, which means that if I touch them, if I kiss them, it is a sin. So someone like an auntie who is married into the family. So my father's brother is my uncle. If he marries someone, that female, the auntie, even though I love and respect her, I just can't touch her. I can wave at her, I can smile at her, but I can't touch her. I can't shake her hand, I can't kiss her, I can't hug her. But someone like my father's sister, that is my paternal aunt, fair game. I can give her a hug, can give her a kiss on the cheek, it's okay. It's not that I love one more or less than the other one. It's just that Allah gave certain rules for the one and separate rules for the other one. Similarly with my cousin, is that my cousin is not part of that list. So that means I can't hug, I can't kiss, I can't shake the hands, I can't be alone with that cousin. Simple. Similarly, like when it comes to people who I work with, people who are my colleagues, shaking hands, hugging or kissing, that's a no-no. But Allah grant us all understanding and make it easy for us, inshaAllah. Ameen.